Hi, folks. Roage here. In the World Operations Oversight Division, Special Headquarters of Power. Woodshop. This is called Vorpal. It was a sword in a poem by Lewis Carroll called Jabberwock, and it is a most effective weapon. Now, it'll slice and dice and make julienne fries. Now, according to the schedule, we got to do this. It's time to shake the what we call the church. It's time to shake it to its foundation, and more than that, let's turn it right side up, the way it's supposed to be, because it's been upside down for a long time. In case you haven't noticed, you can look at the church and pretty much, watch its behavior, analyze it throughout a lot of history, and figure out that it's pretty much off the program, if you're paying attention. So I don't want to lose any of you atheists out there. Okay, there's stuff in here for you. Generally, I think the atheists actually have a better chance at this than the devoutly religious. One, they're skeptical, and they're not as confused as the devoutly religious. However, atheists battling, the devout religious is like Democrats arguing with Republicans about the best way to destroy the country. So there's a different way of looking at it. Now, I started out pretty agnostic. I thought that, well, if An was there and he, was indeed loving and merciful, then what's all this stuff? Just not quite getting those two together. And I didn't. It took me a while to actually see it, and it really centers around what religion is. Okay, and if you look at religion, it means to tie or bind. Tie or bind. Yeah. So to me, I said, well, you know what? Tie or bind, really, I can't put that together with freedom. I don't see people who are tied and bound free. It just doesn't work together. So, hey, it's right there in front of you. They tell you what they're doing. And I'm going to show you exactly how they do that. Now, I tell you often that, wait a minute. You're not powerless because somebody came and took your power. Okay? You're powerless because you gave it away. And it's actually a pretty simple trick when you understand the trick. And then you can see these people doing this stuff. And then you can stop doing it. And once you stop doing it, then you'll be in a better place. I guarantee it. All right. So technically, what they do is they give you the fundamental rules of the universe, okay, and how it works. Sort of like physics. They give you those rules, and then they entice you into breaking them all the time. All right, and it's sort of like this. All right, so they tell you what gravity is, and they show you, and they demonstrate it to you, and then you got it, understand it pretty good, and then they say, uh, hey, why don't you jump off this cliff? Everybody's doing it. Come on, don't be a loser. What did other people say if you don't jump off the cliff? I mean, everybody else is doing it. All right, so then you decide, well, hey, maybe I'll try it. You'll do that once. And you probably won't come back to the guy and say, hey, man, you lied to me. That's not the problem. The fact is, whether or not he lies to you is not the problem. The problem is you believed him. So guess what? You know, that's your problem, not his problem. And, of course, he probably said, hey, I'll hold your wallet before you jump. That's how it works. All right, so this is what they do. They take great pains in showing you what the rules are. Then they entice you into breaking it. And what am I talking about, right? And look, there's some law in here, and there's valid law, okay? It's right there, okay? And whether you atheists say, oh well, that those are moral proclamations. I mean, let's look at it from a point of logic, okay? If you kill somebody, you're going to make somebody else mad. And they're probably going to end up killing you. Okay? If you steal something, look, and I'm not saying that the strict interpretation of all of these things, a strict, moral pronouncement of all of these things is the way to go. But there's got to be reasonable rules for us to coexist together that affords us the maximum amount of freedom and the least amount of deprivation of rights and power. Okay? Now I'm not looking at a maximum. I'm looking at a minimum. Because if there's a minimum amount of these rules, then we're going to enjoy the maximum amount of freedom. And right now, what I see happening in this thing we call society and quote-unquote civilization is we're not looking at a minimum here. We're looking at a maximum. I don't think that they could come up with more ways of telling us what to do. Right? And a lot of this stuff doesn't really hurt anybody. Okay? Well, whether my mailbox is black or white or green, I don't think that's really important, and I don't really think it's depriving anybody of any rights, and I don't think it really hurts anybody what color my mailbox is. Okay, and quite frankly, I don't think that it's really a good idea for me to be on camera 24 hours a day. Not that I'm actually doing anything that's wrong, but let's look at it from a perspective of intellectual property. Let's say I have an idea that came down through inspiration that I'm supposed to capitalize on. That causes me to be able to enjoy abundance. Well, if I'm typing it on the computer and everybody and their uncle knows about it now because, they think it's okay to just go ahead and, just completely monitor me and apparently take that which I consider my private business and just turn it out into the world against my will. Okay, that's none of their business. Okay, if you don't have that kind of privacy, then you really don't have anything. Right, and the worst of it is let's say for instance you're thinking about something, and you write prose, and that's all it is. You're putting words together, and you're exploring some questions within your head. Then some guy who's sitting there looking at your words says, "Oh, you know what? This guy said the wrong words. That's on the watch word list. Let's take away his driver's license, or let's take away some money, or let's go and arrest him because you know what? He's thinking. We've determined that because he's using these words that he's thinking wrong." Uh, Quite frankly, it's none of their business. Second, there's nobody out there that can know what's going on right here. Okay, no one. I know. Okay, other than the lovely Beebles, she can sometimes know what's in my mind, and I can her, but only because we're toned and we're on in the groove and on the track. So how do they do that? Well, they take these rules and then they intentionally entice you into breaking them. Well, the first rule is technically have no other gods before me. And what does that mean? Well, gods are ideas, concepts, and and what are these gods? Well, here's one of those gods. Okay, they call that mammon. If you go and chase this around, you're breaking the law. Okay, if you believe that these things that men call governments are your god, then you're breaking the law. If you think a bunch of people wearing robes in a cold, ugly building that they're calling the church uh, are there to tell you what to do, then you're breaking the law. In fact, the church itself is designed to do that. They create a hierarchy where you bind away your responsibility to somebody else. That's breaking rule one. And if you're doing that, look, you're in a perpetual state of criminality. The other thing. I mean, let's look at another one. It says, "Make thee no graven image." Right. Well, graven image. What that's something you carve or you engrave. And what is that? And make no graven image of anything that is in heaven. Okay. What is that? Well, here's one. This is actually a pretty good symbol if you know how to apply it correctly, but most people don't. Most people don't know what this means. A lot of these people are using this and saying that this is a symbol of that which is in heaven. It's not. Not only that, but where do these show up? This is a graven image. It shows up on a grave. And you look at the headstone. Well, it's engraved. What is it represented? Some dead guy whose spirit is in heaven. Yeah, breaking the law. Folks, you don't need this thing. Okay? Right? And unfortunately, what the church in its current form does, and those people that are acting in the church, they've tied and bound you, right? They keep you in a perpetual state of criminality, and then they know that they can make you do anything that they want. You basically have given them all of your power, because you've rendered your state self in a state of criminality, and you're quote unquote delivered into the hands of evil men. That's how they do. And the way the church is structured right now is they just take a big pit, they dig out a pit, and they fill it with vomit and dog poop, and then they invite you to just take a bath. This guy they called Jesus was walking around like 2,000 years ago. That wasn't the church. That cold, ugly building and all the hypocrites. I mean, a lot of the people are sitting in church right now, and they're deathly afraid that other people are going to realize that, hey, wait a minute, I got no magic in me here. I'm just singing the songs and dancing around and doing the pretend thing, but inside I ain't feeling nothing. But heaven forbid these other guys, figure that out. Oh man, so we're just sitting there pretending, hey, everything's okay. But deep inside we're saying, hey, wait a minute, man, this isn't working. And the more we entice others into that same, mess, the worse it gets for us. That's not a church. That's certainly not what Jesus set up. This is the church. That's where the Spirit is. What did he say? The kingdom of God is within us. You think it's in that building? It's got one of these at the front? Huh? Yeah, just jump into that pile of crap. Get it smeared all over you. See if you feel any better. And while you're at it, let them molest your kids. Yeah, these guys. Yeah, they got the Spirit of God in them. They just can't keep their hands off of little kids. Right? Passing the collection plate. Look, this is one of those rules, right? It says not to steal. This thing has no substantive value. It has perpetual value only. That's all. It's theft by deception. Why? You give away your labor for nothing. Slavery. What's slavery? Breaks rule 1, have no other God. Well, if you're a slave to a man, guess what? That man is your quote-unquote God, lowercase g. You're breaking the law. Oh, and you don't like your situation? Is that right? Boy, I wonder what it could be. I'll tell you what, folks, if you just go back and look at the 10 rules and just try to knock a few of those out and just look where you're doing that, something incredible will happen to you. Guaranteed. Right? Guaranteed. Right? So these guys that set up this hierarchy, what they do is, okay, they give you this book, right? And you got it, and they said, well, here's the contract, and we've talked about contract, and, they give you the rules, and there's all these rules in here, and then they say, oh, okay, let us tell you what these mean. We'll tell you what those words mean. And then you believe them. Instead of actually just trying to figure out what they mean by yourself. Oh, man. Don't listen to anybody else. Don't listen to me. Go find it out for yourself. See, half the problem is, these guys, they don't even read that book. See, I read that book cover to cover. I can get the same thing out of it. I seen these folks in the old days. I mean, these guys were poster boys for Don't Let It Happen to You. But I'm sitting here listening to the people in these so-called churches, and they don't understand that these aren't affirmative lessons here. These are don't let it happen to you lessons. What are you doing? Oh yeah, go out and molest your handmaidens. Yeah, good plan. Yeah, you just go ahead and do that. Yeah, or go and sacrifice your son. Yeah, good plan. He didn't actually get around to doing it. So, what's wrong with the church? Well, the church is not the church. None of these folks actually listen to what that Jesus character actually said. If you get one of these, this is a authorized version of King James. And let me tell you, it's not the end all. Okay, because I'll tell you what, they missed a bunch of stuff when they started translating it from the old Hebrew into the Greek. Okay, they got awfully creative with some of the meanings here. Okay, you got to do and figure out what these things say. And when you do, you'll find out that those folks in the church that you are respecting as an authority often don't even know themselves. If they did, they wouldn't be saying what they're saying. Because they themselves have rendered themselves in a perpetual state of criminality. And they don't even know it. And what are they doing? They're just passing the same crap that was handed to them on to you. And nobody breaks this chain. So we're sitting around here wondering, why is all these things, horrible things, done in the name of, this thing they call God? How does that happen? Well, I'll tell you why. Because you got a bunch of confused people talking to a bunch of confused people. And, hey, to our deaths. Let's go. Yeah, let's get on board with that. There's a cliff. Let's jump off of it. And nobody actually sits around and does any diligence and tries to figure out what the heck is going on. And the people who are not going to like what I say are those guys. Oh, I'm sure. You just wait for the comments. Oh yeah. I mean, hey, folks, I'm the Antichrist because they can't actually sit down and figure out what the law is. They're lazy, apathetic, and exists in a continual state of criminality. And guess what? They won't know what I know. Now, if they'd like to try it, have at it. Everyone that's done has come back to me and said, you know what? This is cool. This is better than cool. But if you exist in a state of criminality, a continual state of criminality, Mr. Attorney, Mr. Judge, those in the church, Mr. Finance, right? Right? This right here. This is nothing. This is a contract to slavery. That's against the law. You ain't gonna know anything. It says that in here. You're an abomination. How's that working out for you? Huh? You want to get to someplace new? Right? Oh yeah, Jesus is the way. Yeah, that's what we're told. Wouldn't it be nice if you actually tried to figure out what the heck he was truly trying to say to you? Most especially you folks in the church and the leadership. Perhaps if you had took your hands off the congregation's children for long enough, you'd actually figure that out. Probably figure out why you're groping their kids in the first place. Now, hey, I don't judge you for that. I think it's a great lesson for you. One of these days, your congregation's going to catch you red-handed, and they'll probably string you up on the tree out front of this ugly, cold building that doesn't have the, spirit of God or on in it. Boy, will you be embarrassed. So, I got these guys, that they come up to me and, said, they say stuff about the videos and, they come in here and they say Jesus is Lord. And my first question is, who isn't? Oh, apparently you haven't actually been listening or, trying to actually understand what, that Jesus character was talking about. Jesus is Lord. You know what? I looked. Jesus is Lord isn't even in this book. So I don't know where you're getting this. And if you can find it in or at least in the King James authorized version, you just go ahead and show me where that's at. And if you're going to say, hey, it's in John 3:16, I'm going to say you don't know what Son of Man means. And I'm going to say, because if you go to the original Greek, you'll find out what Son of Man means. Right? And Jesus is never called the only Son of God in the original Greek. Okay? Somebody put that in there. All right? So what I think is you don't understand what those words are. And you haven't spent enough time to actually, honestly, and responsibly go through and try to figure out exactly what that means. When you do find out, you're going to look at the guys at the church and you're saying, hey, wait a minute, dude. You're not teaching this right. And that's because they're not teaching it right. This is the church. The kingdom of God is within you. Son of man. What is that? It's the son of a human being. Right? And they're spending a lot of time specifically misinterpreting what's in this book. Okay? And I'm not saying that this is the end all for everything that you need to know. Right? I'm saying that most of what you need to know you can figure out directly through your experience. You can find the things that hurt and find the things that work. You can figure it out for yourself. Experiment. Prove it to yourself. Don't listen to me. Prove it to yourself. You have no business listening to somebody else. Oh, least of all, Roage. I mean, not the least of which is the number of mistakes I make continually in these videos. I mean, it just cracks me up, some of the glaring stuff in there. Well, why? This thing, it's not a good approximation, okay? There's some gray areas, and hey, I'm only so proficient, right, in using this tool, right? And I'm the last one to look at somebody else and say, oh, you're doing it wrong. Hey, if you're blowing it, you're probably doing it right, right? Especially if you came here to feel what it's like to get it wrong. Right? Because if you do that, you'll eventually figure, well, hey, this is wrong. I've had enough of this, and then you'll do something else. You'll try something else, and eventually you'll get it right, and that's okay. I'm not going to look at you in your process of learning and say, hey, wait a minute, don't do that. Joe, just listen to me and do what I tell you. I would be the last advocate of that. You prove it to yourself. Your responsibility. It's not my responsibility. You sit here and listen to me without proving what I tell you. That's your fault. Because the second you start trusting what I tell you, it's going to hurt you. Because you're going to hear the words, and you're not going to get the right meaning, right? Because your trust is in the wrong place. You don't trust me. I'm a man, right? Where's your trust belong? On. You'll get the right meaning. I don't care what word I say. On will help you get the right meaning. Why? Because you're of one mind with on. On's gonna, if you trust on, then on's not gonna go out there and screw you on purpose. Hasn't screwed me. Not yet. Pretty consistent. Yeah, and if you people that are currently in the church right now, don't have that kind of deal, then I would suggest you work on that, really. It's easier than you think, right? So, here we got these folks in the government, right, who basically say, well, you're a member of society, or, civil society, and we're going to have to take your stuff. We're going to have to take your labor. We want a portion of your labor. Okay, I'm using my labor to feed myself here, folks. All right. And there's these other guys that think that they deserve more of it than I do. Okay? I'm lighter than I was in high school right now. Because, I've been doing the whole destitution diet thing. If you want to really lose weight, tangle with the IRS. That's a great diet plan. That works out pretty good. Yeah, you'll definitely lose weight. I am. So I guess they're actually doing a good thing. But here we go. We got people in the church, and they're saying, well, hey, Romans 13 actually, tells you what you have to do. You've got to listen to the government because of Romans 13. And Romans 13 says, let every soul be subject unto higher powers, for there is no power but of God. The powers that be are ordained of God. Whosoever therefore resisteth the power, resisteth the ordinance of God, and they that resist shall receive to themselves damnation. Okay, what does that mean? All right. So we've got this thing called the U.S. government. Now, I haven't ever met U.S. government. And if he's out there, I'd like to talk to him, because there's a bunch of people running around there saying that they're speaking for him. And he really needs to take care of that, because they're breaking the law, and they're enslaving me against my will. And I'd like to know if they actually have the authority from, Mr. U.S. government to do that. Because these guys say that, they're there on behalf of these nebulous folks called the people, and that, they're there, by the consent of the people. And the people, I talk to them, and every single one of them, I can't figure out how they're consenting to a lot of the stuff that the U.S. government is doing, or at least the agents of the U.S. government. And I don't really think that the U.S. government really wants him to be doing that. And if he's out there, I mean, he can come and talk to me, and we can square this, get this, squared away. Not only that, but the whole idea of consent in the first place by the governed. I don't see where that's at, and I ask, and they haven't demonstrated that yet, and I'm still waiting. The fact is that they don't. I think they're lying. That's what it is. And lying, of course, is that is to exist in a perpetual state of criminality. So of course, yeah, liars lie, and it's because they really don't. They're demoralized, confused, and stupid. Yeah, stupid's probably the biggest problem there. So, here you look at Romans 13, and whoever resisteth the power. Well, hey, me and God, we're all connected. Everything's cool. Yeah, cool with me. But these guys aren't. So don't try to apply that to me. It's okay. I'm already there. How about you guys that are acting as agents for Mr. U.S. government? How about you actually align yourself with that? Because you're doing evil. You're really not supposed to be doing that, right? So you better get with a program, because you're off the reservation, okay? Right? And then there's this other thing where they justify taxation, right, by saying this is Matthew 22. Verse 21, it says, they say unto him, Caesar's. Then said he unto them, Render therefore unto Caesar the things which are Caesar's, and unto God the things that are God, the things that are God's. Okay, so render unto Caesar what is Caesar. Well, they always say that one, but they don't say render unto God what are God's. And they say, oh well, yeah, that's just spiritual stuff. The cash, we want that. I'm not talking about cash. This is worthless. But you know what, you guys want my labor. Guess what? My labor belongs to God. All right? This body belongs to God. All right? And besides the fact, Caesar was a man. He was real. I could walk up to Caesar and say, hey, man, you're starving me to death. You sure you want to do that, man? If hey, lighten up a little bit, man. I might be able to produce something for you. And Caesar might say, okay, yeah, man, I'll cut that deal. However, these agents for Mr. U.S. government, shoot, they're taking everything, man. I can't even eat. I don't have anything. I can't even produce anything for them if I wanted to. Besides the fact that, hey, wait a minute, my labor in this body isn't theirs. It isn't theirs. So what they're doing is they're violating Rule 1. And I'm letting them? No. Not the Roage. Roage doesn't consent to that. They're committing a perpetual crime. And the church is completely upside down. Those folks in the church should actually be showing us. But you know what? They're using our ignorance, our laziness, right, against us. Well, that's not really that bad a deal, but we're really not getting that. And it's hurting, isn't it? Yeah, it's hurting. I talk to a lot of folks here, and there's a lot of folks out there right now worldwide that just not really happy with what's going on. All right. So you hit bottom. You're starving to death. What do? You know, a lot of people get religion. Right back into the shackles. Yeah, how about we try something else? How about we stop violating everybody's rights? How about we stop imposing certain things on other people and attempting to enslave them? How about we just stop killing people left and right? How about we stop molesting children? How about, not putting vile, poisonous food in our bodies continually? How about we stop trusting men? Or how about, for reals, we stop looking at fictional corporations and calling them real things? Okay, and I'm talking most of the churches here in the United States are what's called 501c nonprofits. A dead corporation. A pit of dog crap and vomit that deals in this, enslaving all of the people that walk in and jump in that big pit, smearing it all over themselves. How about we stop doing that? Huh? How about we just, hey, take a few laws and actually just, hey, man, try it. See what happens. See if your circumstances get better. I'll bet you they will. You'll certainly be happier. You keep breaking promises, breaking contracts, lying to people, stealing from them. And whether you know you're doing it or not means you're confused. If you don't know that this is theft by deception, and if you don't know that charging interest, usury, is against the law, right, then you're confused. That's why you're suffering. Now, look, I know a lot of you folks are saying, hey, man, I'd have to give up too much. Hey, I'm not saying that. See, we're on board with this stuff. That's the problem. We don't even know that we're lying. If we knew that we were lying, would we do it? If we knew that we were stealing, yeah, I understand. You guys got to eat. Right now, this is the only game in town. That was very convenient for them to do that. While we transition to something more meaningful, we don't have to necessarily consent to it. If you just remove your consent, then, hey, look, you say, hey, look, man, I got to use this, Hey, guess what? On cuts you slack, trust me. If you're working to transition it out, hey, don't sweat it, man. On'll take care of it. That free pass until you can get things sorted out. Eventually what happens is you start working out the bugs and things get better and better and better and better. And you always have rewards and you always know you're on the right track as things get better and better and better. You get in this groove. But most of us, we're sitting on the highway of life, right? And what are we doing? We're off the side of the road riding a guardrail, while the guardrail is like just taking the paint off of us, And that's it. We just ride the guardrail. Eventually guardrail ends and then we're off in the ditch. How about we stop and just say, hey, wait a minute, if I just turn right, I can get off the guardrail, and wow, I noticed that if I'm going down the center of the road, it's not like scratching the crap out of me. You get in this groove, man, and it's nice because what's nice is you're not in this perpetual state of suffering. You're actually getting positive reinforcement for a change. Yeah, and most of us don't even know what that is. That's, it's miraculous. It's magical when that happens. That'll keep your interest, too. Certainly a lot more than getting your teeth kicked in, tased, or whatever. Tear gassed, beaten. It's an odd notion, all the anarchists out there, right? Trying to promote anarchy when that's what we have. In fact, anarchy itself isn't lawlessness. Anarchy is, people who operate without a government. Doesn't mean lawlessness. If you don't believe me, any anarchist, just go ahead and jump off a cliff. If you don't fall down, come and see me. Anarchists, you're not out there promoting lawlessness. It's actually fairly noble if you know what it is that you're doing. But see, in this world, we don't have lawful government. Okay, we have a fiction of law that has no accountability, no responsibility. Until I can go, who does the trustee in government work for? Well, he's not even a trustee. They created this fictional government architecture, and these guys all, quote unquote, represent the government? Really? What is that? It's a fiction that exists in people's minds. And how do I know that fiction actually authorized them to do it? Well, I can't know that. So every time these people come by my door and say, hey, well, I'm from the government, and I say, prove it. Well, it's written down in this policy guideline book. You're not mowing your yard enough. Really? So? Don't grow vegetables in your front yard. And you know what? Your paint is not an approved color. you know. And no chewing gum, no skateboards, none of that. No bicycles. Don't make loud noises. Well, if you're disturbing the peace, then you're creating a victim. But if you're in your own home listening to your stereo, nobody else can hear it. Or, there's a myriad of things that they've decided is just not a good idea. That don't create victims. That are just means of, keeping you in this perpetual state of enslavement. And if you make yourself a slave, it's your fault. How about we actually reconnect with On and let everything fix itself? That way we don't have to go and, poison the Gulf of Mexico or poison the Pacific Ocean with radiation because we've got confused idiots, just buffoons, in control of dangerous technology that, quite frankly, these buffoons have no business even touching, building. I thought it was actually kind of funny. The Department of Homeland Security was, they got these robotic drones now. They're going to fly them over the United States with Hellfire missiles on it to protect us, from bad men that want to hurt you. Because they're out there. And the FBI knows, because the FBI, for the most part, is creating these guys out there that are dangerous. So they're flying these robotic drones out there. And an agent from the Department of Homeland Security says, hey, don't be afraid. There'll always be a human being deciding when to kill you. Oh, that makes me feel so much better. Especially the quality that I've met from, the standards that, of the people that I've met that, work in police departments and the FBI and the Treasury, these law enforcement people. These buffoons, yeah. You know what? Yeah, Yeah, that I'm sure. I feel so much better that yeah, I think I'd take my chances with a machine. At least there's a clinical algorithm being applied. Not some buffoon who's eating a taco and says, "Whoop," pushes a button and whoops. You know. I mean, honestly, okay, they're going to fly these things around the United States with weapons on them, and we're going to be safer. We're going to It's going to actually make us safer. I don't even think it's going to make us feel any safer. We think these, anything we see in the sky now, is there a bomb on that thing? Who is the goofball that actually attached the bomb to the bottom of it? I mean, is it secure? Did he do a good job? Maybe it's just not a good idea to have live ordnance flying over our houses, our schools, right? Maybe that's how we can actually be safer. And maybe if we didn't just try to impose, our confusion on everybody else, and go over there and say, do it or else. Here's the modern statesman here from the U.S. government. Uh, I've watched him. I mean, their art of statesmanship is something to behold, and it's usually we would like very much that you do exactly what we tell you to do, or we'll bomb you. Will murder your children, destroy your infrastructure, and deprive you of the means of sustaining yourself. Are you down with that deal, huh? That's what statesmanship is. Where are the people that could actually make a deal? I mean, look at the Iran situation. Okay, Iran wants to build power plants. Okay. Why wasn't Israel in there? I mean, Israel could have built the power plants for them. Israel could have produced the fissionable material. And if Iran wanted nuclear power plants, I mean, shoot, I'm sure that they could work out a deal. See, we don't want to work out a deal. We just want to kill you. Because it's not about nuclear power plants, folks. It's about, hey, we got a group of people that want to do their own thing. We better kill them. We can't have that, I mean, what would happen when there's a bunch of free people walking around? Oh, it would be absolute happiness, man. We can't have that. Let's kill them. Let's kill them. Yeah, that'll work. Yeah, if we kill them, we don't have to worry about any of that. There'll be peace, too, yeah. We don't have to listen to any of that crying and whining and stuff. Let's shoot all of their kids. Piss them off. Then they'll attack us. And then we can just, turn their country into a skateboard park. And that's okay because we can still get at the oil. And, Mr. U.S. government, I got some questions for you. Mr. UN, I got some. You know what? Your representatives, these guys are breaking the law all the time, man. You better cut that shit out. Mr. NATO? Who are these guys? Easter Bunny. Then we got all these confused people that say, "Well, I work for I represent the United States government, or I represent the UN." Really? Prove it. Have Mr. and Mrs. UN come over here. Oh, I have a group of people who consent to this come and talk to me. Huh? I don't know about you, but I talk to people here in this country. I don't see a whole lot of people actually consenting either way to what's going on here. Oh yeah, there's a bunch of confused people that are gung ho, but the people with their eyes on, man, they're just not down with any of this stuff. Seems to me nobody's asking them for permission; they're just doing it. And somebody like me comes along and starts, asking questions. They just come in here and get in my shit. And folks, here, I didn't go out there and do this, okay? I didn't go out and start trouble. In fact, I was okay. I was fine. I was in the confused American dream thing. I thought I was doing what I had a responsibility to do, according to what I was told to do. So these goons show up and, wow, wait a minute, what's going on here? And they confused everything. I was in my American dream. I was okay. And if they would have just left me alone, it would have been okay. But see, they came to me and did this. So I was just sitting there. I was totally confused in a complete blissful state. Well, I wasn't happy, but I thoroughly convinced myself that I was, and I was okay. So I was doing that which I thought I was responsible for, and these guys come in here and they haven't stopped, man. It just gets worse and worse, and I've had enough. I basically have enough. That's enough. It's over. And if you think it can't happen to you, good luck with that. Just a matter of time. They've already created laws you're breaking right now, and anytime they wanna, they're gonna come and get you. Why? Because you probably have one of these around your neck, and they know that, hey, they're existing in a perpetual state of criminality. Hey, look, he's got a tattoo. Yeah, let's get him. Tell you what, you misinterpret this, or you misinterpret what Jesus said, you're going to be persecuted. And you need to be. I haven't seen a church a church is not something you see. A church is not some place you go to. A church is something you are. When you get that figured out, then the nice stuff happens. Oh, and you guys, you devoutly religious folks, and you atheists out there that think that you're just gonna leave a comment and berate me. Don't write anything derogatory without proof. If you can prove it, shoot, I'm your man. I'm not so stupid and stubborn that I can't change my mind and see what's there. I'm not that way. That's an idiot's way of being. But so far, unless you're in a position to actually prove it, don't bother. I'm saying, the stuff that I do is actually pretty simple. You could try it for yourself. And, oddly enough, for a lot of you, it is just doing some of my recommendations. If you go through the cheat sheet Mark IV and actually just, try it. Seriously try it and do it. Then come back and talk to me. Tell me I'm wrong. Till you do that, you can't do that. And that goes for the atheist too. And you guys can do this while you're still, in the midst of your particular, state. Do it while you do it. They won't be able to tell because, it's not like, it's not like they'll be able to see you. You can keep being a hypocrite, or you could keep being obnoxious and intolerant all you want. Don't pay attention where it gets you. Apply a systemic methodology to your experience. Open your eyes and pay attention. Test those things. See for reactions. See if those reactions are consistent. Do the proofs. Approach it with a theory. Prove the theory. Experiment until you can get conclusions that are reproducible in your experience. But if you sit there and you say, well, these guys are an authority, and I take them as an authority, and they're telling me that, hey, jumping off the cliff is the path to happiness. Be careful. Some of these things you jump off, you only get one chance. What a scam. Think about this. Oh yeah, you can go to heaven. If you do what I tell you your whole life, right? Let me molest your kids and, commit worldwide atrocities in the name of God. And you let me do that? You give me all your money when I ask for it. You give me your undying devotion because that's what God wants you to do. Trust me. It's your own fault. You do that, you deserve it. Approach it like a scientist. Your life experience, these things are consistent. Gravity always works. Hey, every single time I do this. There's principles that I teach that are just as reproducible. They're basic principles. You do something to somebody else, expect it to be done to you. Man, that's not hard to prove. You can test it over and over again. And it doesn't fail. For every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. These are basic principles. But you sit there and you rely on somebody else to tell you what's right without testing it, verifying it for yourself. That's the way you're going to exist. No, that's the way you exist right now. How's that working out for you? Why don't you try something different? Take a time out. You don't necessarily have to change anything in your experience. Just pay attention to what you're doing and see what's happening. Watch it carefully. You don't have to change anything that you're doing. Just simply pay attention and say, hey, wait a minute. Every time I do this, it hurts. Get to a point of sanity. We don't even know what that is. I asked an FBI agent if he had I asked him, what's your definition of sanity? He says, I don't know. It's an FBI agent. This guy walks around with a gun, okay? Out there making sure that you're not doing anything wrong. Investigating you. I says to him, you don't have a definition of insanity? Then how in the world do you know that what you're doing isn't insane? That's scary, folks. These are the people that are out there trying to protect us. That's right, they're trying. I don't really think they're out there to protect us at all. If you look at what do they do? FBI, Federal Bureau of Investigation. Oh, they investigate stuff. Yeah, so what? All right, yeah, that's that whole idea where, you got police officers out there fighting crime. They're fighting and fighting. Hey, I just a suggestion. I think that people would like you better if you just actually started just stopping crime. Maybe that works. Because fighting crime, that never ends. We got a war on terror. It's a war on terror. It's not a war to stop terror. It's a war on terror. Well, in order to have a war on terror, you have to have terror. And since it's open-ended and it never stops, that means somebody is going to have to produce that terror, and I just wonder who that could be. Could it be men running around without a constructive definition of what insanity is? Maybe it's those guys. I'll bet you it's those guys. I don't know. I think we just need to ask questions and hold out for the answer. Quit letting people bullshit us. That's what I think. Just ask a question. Hey, when did I give you my consent? Can you show me that? What did I agree to again? You say this is a civil society. What did I agree to again? Could you tell me what that is? Because I'm a little foggy on that whole thing. I'm really not down with the whole complete enslavement of the world. I'm just not there. I'm not there with you guys. I just don't think it's very useful to enslave and control every aspect of everybody's lives because, quite frankly, you've been doing this for a long time, and you know what? You don't got a real good track record. I think it's a better idea to just let individual people control the individual elements of their experience. Yeah, I understand that there's a lot of people out there not taking responsibility for that. But you know what? You're not teaching them that either. You're not showing them. How about you get with the program? Because this ain't working. If you think you're going to enslave people, because you have a bunch of guns, I'm going to say, well, those guns, they're just inanimate objects. You're employing buffoons and goons that have no sense. What happens when those goons actually decide, hey, wait a minute, I don't like this anymore, and they go after you? What are you going to do to stop them? Nothing. You're a casualty. So you set up this monstrosity, and the monster eats you. Yeah, good plan. So, well, I'm Roage. In the woodshed. You have a good day.